Hey there, my name is sjofors. I know it's a little weird name for us here in America, but it certainly makes perfect sense in my native Sweden and the rest of Scandinavia. Anyway, I'm also known as the Price Whisper, and if you want to get hold of me, maybe that's an easier way to find me. But the Price Whisper, as I said. Um, Today, I'm going to talk about pricing and M&E activity, mergers and acquisitions. And there's two cases here. There's a sell side and there's a buy side, and pricing is important for both sides. And I'm not talking valuation of the company here. I'm talking about the price of the product or the services that the company may sell. And let's start with the sell side first. Um, any seller of anything, and particularly when you sell companies, you certainly want to make sure that you get the highest price, the highest valuation that you can possibly get. And that in many cases are driven by not only things like the industry that the company is in, the overall growth that the industry is in, the quote unquote sexiness that an industry is in, and so forth. All that affects valuation. But what also affects valuation is revenues, profitability, and growth rate. And here's where pricing of product or services comes in, right? And it's very important to realize that almost all companies leave money on the table. Some more than others, but it's very common to leave money on the table. People in companies in general are a bit timid in pricing, and they think that, well, we have to price low to get the sales volume that we need, and so forth. And that's obviously true sometimes, but many times it is not. So what I'm proposing here for the seller side is that by by um, by pricing right, and by pricing right, what I mean here is to use the process of willingness to pay research to understand what a market is willing to pay for a product or a service, understand the customer segmentation that leads to a higher willingness to pay and therefore supports higher prices. What features, functions, and benefits of their product leads to higher prices or supports higher prices than other features and functions. What marketing channels and what marketing messages generates the highest lead flow and the most optimal what you might call it, revenues and profitability, and also what sales methodologies and sales channels leads to a higher willingness to pay that is found in this research than maybe another channel and another methodology. And then, of course, also have a pricing structure that minimize sales friction and maximize what people are willing to pay for a product or a service. I'm saying people here, but of course B2B is we still have people making purchase decisions. So this works in either B2B or B2C. Now, what happens here is that when this research is analyzed, and you can get advice on all of the above, on the most desirable customer profiles, the best products, features and functions to promote, and so forth. What happened is very rapid growth, right? Let me give you a couple of examples here. Companies that my firm has worked with over the last few months. One company went from about 200 million in annual revenue to 250 million in annual revenue in a whopping 3 weeks, right? Because they had timid pricing and they could just increase price without losing any sales volume. So because they had pricing power. And likewise, another companies much smaller went from about 15 to 35 million in 6 weeks. A little bit more complicated, but still obviously very, 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 very valuable for them to understand that there was room for significant price increases, and of course in both of those cases the cost based is the same. Now this obviously going to look good on the balance sheet, but it's also so that these additional monies leave the company the ability to reinvest that money into the company and add even more value with, more marketing, more products, and be more competitive and so forth. So if you're thinking about selling a company, what I'm proposing that you want to do is to do this willingness to pay research to get all the answers, so you can very, very quickly see a very significant increase in the business and valuation of your company, and it works every time, right? So and you probably want to do it maybe 6 months or so prior, maybe 9 months prior to a potential transaction, so that you can show the buyers the rapid growth that you have in the company, and the rapid increase of profits and revenue. So because that's going to affect your valuation very, very significantly, right? But then let's go to the buy side then. And in the buy side, first thing you want to do when you look at a company is there room for making price increases, right? You probably want to do very similar willingness to pay research as I just mentioned, just to make sure that once you've done the transaction, you can very quickly adjust prices upwards, adjust the way the company go to market with focusing on the right customer profiles, with the right product, right marketing, and so forth. So you have a recipe. You really have an insurance policy that says that after I've done this transaction, I very rapidly will get my sort of my investment back. And in fact, we get a lot of business in my company from private equity groups, and we do that because what they tell me is that they do these willingness to pay projects, and they tell me that we can reduce the typical hold time of a company from 3 to 5 years to maybe a year and a half, right? That's how quickly that they can get the returns that they need in their business. So from the sell side, you want to do this willingness to pay research prior to a transaction, right? It doesn't have to be huge in terms of project size or something like that, but just to make sure that you have the ability to increase prices after a transaction. And then after the transaction itself, if you didn't do it before the transaction, you certainly should do it just after the transaction, because you want to make sure that you see this very, very rapid growth that you see once you implement the results in a from one of these willingness to pay exercises, and you want to make sure that you can take price wherever you can, that you want to focus the company correctly, and so forth, and all of that is what you get when from this willingness to pay research, right? So in closing here, what I really want to encourage you to do as you think about M&A activities is to think about how the price of your product or your service, your entire go-to-market strategy, if it is focused correctly towards if it's focused correctly, it will give you pricing power, and it will give give you the ability to rapidly increase revenue and profits, and thereby rapidly increase valuation. And it's good for the sell side because you want to have the maximum valuation when you sell your company, and it's good for the buy side once you acquire the company, because it's going to significantly increase the value of your acquisition. All right, that was it for today. Thank you very much. I hope you found this of some interest, and I'm looking forward to see you next time. Thank you, Dan. Bye.